Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories. And one of the big developments that happened today was, of course, in IPL. Two teams have been banned. Huge ramifications for cricket, how the game is played and promoted in India. We'll be talking about that to a special guest as well. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. SC appointed panel suspends IPL teams CSK and Rajasthan Royals for 2 years. Bans Gurunath Mayappan and Raj Kundra for life from BCCI matches. Capping a decade of negotiations, Iran and 6 world powers reach landmark nuclear deal. Iran to lose sanctions in return for enforcing checks on nuclear program. Dichotomy in price data puzzles experts. Wholesale price inflation recorded at minus 2.4%, a day after retail inflation was reported to be 5.4%. Tragedy at the Pushkaralu festival in Andhra Pradesh. 27 people killed in the stampede on the banks of the Godavari in the Rajamundry district. And a day after Pakistan's NSA Sartaj Aziz's remarks on the Indo-Pak joint statement at Ufa, opposition parties questioned the Prime Minister's meeting with Nawaz Sharif. Well, our top story this evening, Raj Kundra, the co-owner of the Rajasthan Royals, and Gurunath Mayappan, a director for team Chennai Super Kings, have earned life bans for their betting activities during IPL Season 6. The two teams are also out of the cash-rich league for 2 years. A Supreme Court-appointed committee meted out this punishment for the betting scandal that rocked the Indian Premier League 2 years ago.
Gurunath Mayappan banned for life. Raj Kundra banned for life. These key IPL team officials have been banned for life from involvement in any cricket matches organised by the BCCI. The teams run by these two men, Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals, are also out of the cash-rich Indian Premier League for 2 years. The officials have been punished for their betting activities during the 2013 season of IPL.
The punishment is exemplary and it's strong, and it sends a very strong message to people who indulge in unwholesome and corrupt practices. According to me, this will go a long way in making cricket a cleaner game. Rather than thinking that IPL will be finished, it will have a temporary setback, but it will come out cleaner.
The punishment has been handed down by the Supreme Court-appointed 3-member committee headed by former Chief Justice of India, R.M. Lodha. The bench held that the betting activities of Mayappan and Kundra have brought the game of cricket, BCCI and IPL into disrepute.
The committee proposes to impose sanction on India Cements franchisee under Section 6, Rule 4.2c of the operational rules by suspending it from the league for a period of 2 years.
महान खेल क्रिकेट को अपने गलत आचरण से जिन लोगों ने कलंकित किया था, आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा बनाई गई समिति के फैसले ने ये साबित कर दिया कि खेल बड़ा होता है, कानून बड़ा होता है.
IPL COO Sundar Raman remains under the scanner for now as he is yet to be given a clean sheet. Raman is accused of failing to take any action against IPL franchise owners and team officials despite receiving information about their betting activities.
BCCI, which is managing the game of cricket in the country, has to give an important place to the disciplinary role. This role is being discharged by this committee in the present matter as mandated by the Honorable Supreme Court, so that purity of game remains a central element. We feel that our decision must reflect a kind of institutionally firm view for upholding the paramountcy of the game.
After the Supreme Court verdict, the BCCI top brass got into a huddle to discuss it. The IPL Governing Council members are also expected to meet soon to discuss the implications and the road ahead after the verdict. The board is also mulling whether new companies would be allowed to bid for the 2 vacant slots, although the CSK and RR players are now free to join other teams. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And V. Srivat, senior sports journalist, now joins us to help us understand, as far as the game of cricket, once again mired in controversy, the ghost of match fixing and betting still coming back and haunting Indian cricket. How bad is this? Because after all, these are the two premier teams in the competition. They've won numerous IPLs. So does this put a cold question mark about the entire IPL itself?
That I think Justice Lodha has clarified. IPL per se will not be affected. It's only the two teams that have been punished. Basically, Justice Lodha has gone by the rule book. He has not looked into the emotional aspects of it or, sympathetically considering certain things and things. He said, as per, it's an indictment of the cricket authorities in this country when he said that these rules are there in their own books, in the IPL rules. If they had acted as per the rules, they need not have come to us at all. They could have they're right actually. If they had taken a decision last year itself when it came to light, and they should have punished those two guys. See, the only problem was the IPL Governing Council did not want to take any action because it involved an important person's team, Chennai Super Kings. If it were just Rajasthan Royals, they would have hanged the guy and said your team can be removed. But since CSK was also involved, they were a little hesitant. They were trying to cover it up, and in the process, they got into a major problem. This is only a part of actual report. The bigger part, my worry is when they talk about the institutional reforms of the cricket board. There, I think they are going to indict a lot more people, how they have acted during this period and how they have not done what they should have done. When those names come out, I think that will be a bigger thing, in my opinion, than this. This was expected. They had to take action. One Supreme Court has said they only needed to give the quantum of punishment, nothing else. So they have done that. 2 years is okay for the teams. That means they have taken into account. They said 2 years are... See, these people can be banned for life. The rule is there. The only thing is, the rule also says they could have terminated the two franchises.
Right.
I don't know. The automatic termination of the franchise as per the rules. But the committee took a view that maybe they thought that why should teams be punished for a long time for an individual thing? That's where I think they would have taken this into a consideration.
Right.
Instead of just of course they said that individual is not greater than the game. So and for these people it doesn't matter. Tomorrow they can always go and play. I mean, I cannot say that these teams should not be punished because it involves some 50 players.
Right. So that's the whole point. As far as the players themselves are concerned, Mr. Srivat, what about the players? There's a cloud of doubt now around everybody and everything involved with the IPL, given the fact that you're saying more names could come out and things could get even murkier. So as far as the IPL itself is concerned, do you see public credibility being restored in that?
No. The suspicion was about those 13 players which were submitted in a cover. But obviously nothing has come out of it, I think. Because they would have definitely taken into consideration those names also. It's not that... See, the thing is, making accusation is one thing and getting concrete proof to punish somebody is a different thing.
Right.
Obviously they may not have got, but I don't know. Unless now this man who has actually gone to the Supreme Court, he is threatening to go back to the court to say that you must... release those 13 names and also prevent Mr. Srinivasan from acting as ICC chief. Those are all long drawn out things. I don't think court will anymore discuss these things because even these two franchises, I don't know how Justice Lodha said they are free to go to in appeal against this. But I doubt very much whether the Supreme Court will entertain any more appeals because they very clearly said the decision of Justice Lodha's committee is final, they said. I don't think they'll... But the only thing is possibly the franchises might go to the court back again saying that you cannot punish us for some individual thing. But for that, Justice Lodha had already made it clear they knew They are not ordinary people.
Right.
There is not some official or something. They are part owners, and they know exactly. And they are not small children, he said. They are not young men. They are all 40 plus and all. They should know exactly what they are doing. I mean, when you are involved in such a thing, is the franchise also has to take the responsibility for it, it said.
All right, but do the players also then get held accountable, and were players also influenced by the owners of these teams as well?
Absolutely. Because here the problem is, if Mayappan is punished by inference, people are saying that it leads to Mr. Srinivasan also. But luckily, very cleverly, Srinivasan has offloaded all his stake, and now he says, I have nothing to do with CSK. But anyway, this has been done after the damage was done. So it was not all that easy, but I think there will be definitely some murmurs, because Srinivasan is the ICC chairman.
Right.
ICC is the biggest forum for world cricket. I mean, if he is presiding over that and his own team gets into this kind of a murky affair, there will be definitely some questions asked, and Mr. Srinivasan will have to do a lot of explaining,
right,
at least inside the ICC board meeting.
All right, so clouds of doubt over the IPL, over cricket itself, unfortunately, with the politics of the sport and the controversies around it once again dominating the headline. Thank you very much, Mr. V. Srivatsa, for coming in and helping us understand this a little better.
Thank you.
Well, moving on now onto some international news, and this is really big news, because after marathon talks, world powers had reached a landmark agreement on the Iran nuclear program. Now, Iran has agreed to limit its nuclear activity in return for lifting international economic sanctions. Iran's foreign minister called the agreement historic.
I believe this is a historic moment. We are reaching an agreement that is not perfect for anybody, but it is what we could accomplish. And it is an important achievement for all of us. Today could have been the end of hope on this issue, but now we are starting a new chapter of hope.
10 years in the making, the Iran nuclear deal finally concluded on Tuesday. Formal negotiations were taken up by the United States, UK, France, China, Russia and Germany since 2013. Under the deal, sanctions imposed on Iran by the United States, European Union and United Nations will be lifted in return for Iran agreeing to a long-term curbs on nuclear program. However, sanctions could be restored in 65 days if Iran violates the deal. A UN arms embargo and missile sanctions will remain in place in Iran for 5 to 8 years respectively. UN inspectors will also be allowed to monitor military sites, but Iran could challenge requests for access.
It is a decision that can open the way to a new chapter in international relations and show that diplomacy, coordination, cooperation can overcome decades of tensions and confrontations.
Following the agreement, the International Atomic Energy Agency and Iran signed a roadmap to resolve the outstanding issues on Iran's nuclear program. The EU said the deal is a sign of hope for the entire world.
The roadmap sets out a process under the November 2013 Framework for Cooperation to enable the agency, with the cooperation of Iran, to make an assessment of issues relating to possible military dimensions to Iran's nuclear program by the end of 2015.
However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described the agreement as a historic mistake.
מוכנים לעשות הסכם בכל מחיר, זאת התוצאה. מהדיווחים הראשונים שמגיעים אפשר לקבוע כבר עכשיו שההסכם הזה הוא טעות היסטורית לעולם. בכל התחומים שהיו אמורים למנוע מאיראן את היכולת להתחמש בנשק גרעיני.
Analysts say the deal is far from over, as details on the terms of agreement on technical issues are still not clear. The Iran nuclear deal appears all set to reshape relations between Iran and the West, with its effects likely to impact across Middle East. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the wholesale price index-based inflation remained in the negative zone for the 8th consecutive month at a minus 2.4% in June. This, however, shows dichotomy over retail and wholesale prices in the country, as retail inflation nudged up to 5.4% in the same period. Retail inflation spike has now dented hopes of another rate cut by the RBI next month.
Even as pulses and onions remain costly, the annual inflation rate based on wholesale prices continued to be the negative in June. It has fell further to minus 2.4% from minus 2.36% in May. Inflation for fuel and power segment came at a negative 10.03% in June as compared to negative 10.51% for the previous month. Food inflation fell to 2.88% in June against 3.80% in the previous month. However, deflationary trend in WPI may not guide RBI's policy stance as the consumer price index-based CPI inflation has firmed up. RBI Governor Rajya had warned that he may not cut rates further if food prices increase. However, experts feel that spike in inflation comes in the backdrop of slowdown in factory output and RBI should deliberate another cut.
See, RBI definitely is going strictly that when inflation is going up, money supply should be reduced. But that is not the right thing at all the time.
Increase in retail inflation has kindled industry's demand for FDI in retail. Industry veterans feel that opening FDI in retail would improve storage and distribution networks and will also cut down leakages.
The policy is already there, the previous government has already made the, and that not giving a chance to the policy to be implemented, I think this is against the interest of the farmer, this is against the interest of the consumer.
Last month, RBI cut the repo rate from 7.5% to 7.25%, but warned that further cuts will depend on inflation and the monsoon, which impacts the country's agricultural output. The state-owned Met Office and the private weather forecaster SkyMet have different takes on monsoon this season. SkyMet has predicted above normal rainfall, but IMD's forecast of deficient rain has triggered speculation on its possible impact on crops. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a very quick break, but coming up on the other side, all the international news, the Greek Prime Minister is racing against time to pass key reform laws to hang on to the third bailout deal amid stiff opposition. More on that on the other side.
European Union offers Greece a bailout package. It's a tough deal, harsher than what Greeks voted against in their referendum. Can the Greek Prime Minister now convince Parliament and his people? Watch The Big Picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, at least 27 people have died in a stampede on the Godavari banks during the Pushkaram festival at the Rajamundry district in Andhra Pradesh. 20 others were injured in the tragedy that broke out when a large number of pilgrims rushed towards one of the gates of the ghat. Many people were crushed by the crowd while some drowned. The tragedy struck between 7:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. Most of the victims were elderly people. The bodies were shifted to the Rajamundry Government Hospital. The Chief Minister has announced an ex gratia of 10 lakh rupees for the family of the deceased, and he said he will remain in Rajamundry for the next 11 days if necessary.
It's very unfortunate, and our deepest sympathy towards the deceased families. And those people who got hurt and taking treatment in the hospitals. And very, very unfortunate, very saddening. And it shouldn't happen. It happened because of government failure.
I hold Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, Chief Minister, responsible for this. Number one, in spite of spending 1,300 crores, hardly any preventive measures were taken. He himself has admitted a week back, and he expressed his displeasure on the arrangements.
Now, legendary music director M.S. Vishwanathan passed away at his residence in Chennai today morning after a prolonged illness. He was 88 years old. He was undergoing treatment in a private hospital for geriatric problems. Family members said his last rites will be performed tomorrow. M.S. Vishwanathan, who was a much sought-after music director, who scored music for over 1,000 South Indian films. He also played a few roles in some movies. Condoling his death, the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha expressed regret that Vishwanathan was denied the prestigious Padma Award.
ரொம்ப மனசுக்கு வேதனையா இருக்கு. அவர் சாங்ஸ் மலையாளத்திலே, கன்னடத்திலே, தெலுங்குல, தமிழ்ல கூட பியூட்டிஃபுல் சாங்ஸ் பாடிருக்கேன். எல்லா ஹிட் சாங்ஸ் மலையாளத்திலே கூட ரொம்ப நல்ல சாங்ஸ் பாடிருக்கேன். ஆத்மா சாந்தி அடையட்டும்.
மதிப்புக்குரிய எம்ஜிஆர் அவர்கள், சிவாஜி சார் அவர்கள், அந்த மாதிரி ஜாம்பவான்களின் மிகப்பெரிய வெற்றிக்கு பின்னால எம்எஸ்சி அவர்கள் இருந்தாங்க. அவர் இல்லாமல் கண்ணதாசனோ, வாலியோ, ஸ்ரீதரோ, பாலச்சந்தரோ யாரோ வெற்றி அவ்வளவு பெரிய வெற்றி பெற்றிருக்க முடியாது.
For all the other national stories, let's start taking nationwide. A special court has ordered framing of charges against former Jharkhand Chief Minister Madhu Kora and 8 others in the coal allocation scam that cost the exchequer a loss of 1.86 lakh crore rupees. The court has fixed July 31st for formal framing of charges and directed all the accused to remain present in the court on that day. 4 police officials were abducted by suspected Naxalites in the Bijapur district of Chhattisgarh on Monday. The state police has confirmed the abduction from a civilian bus in Bijapur district. There is no news yet about their whereabouts. Police and paramilitary forces have intensified their search operations. Manipur remained calm during the 14-hour general strike called by the Joint Committee on Inner Line Permit System. The strike was called to press the demand for a stringent law to check the influx of immigrants. The strike, however, affected normal life as shops, schools and offices remained closed. A team of 16 CBI officers today raided the home and office of activist Tista Setalvad, who is accused of illegally receiving funds from abroad. The CBI had registered a case against Setalvad last week for alleged violation of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act without seeking the Home Ministry's permission. Setalvad had called the raids vendetta by the ruling BJP. Now on to inter-Pak relations, and key opposition party, the Congress, has termed the joint statement by India and Pakistan in UFA as a mere eyewash. This comes a day after Pakistan's NSA, Sartaj Aziz, sought more proof on the 2611 case and wanted Kashmir on the agenda for bilateral talks. However, according to sources, the government downplayed Aziz's statements, saying India will stand by the joint statement agreed upon between Modi and Nawaz Sharif.
A day after Pakistan NSA Sartaj Aziz's remarks on the UFA joint statement, opposition has termed the initiative by the Prime Minister to meet his Pak counterpart Nawaz Sharif as mere eyewash. It has also questioned the worth of the joint statement, which said that the two sides have agreed to move forward on a number of issues, including the trial of the 2611 attacks case. It has also demanded clarification from Prime Minister Narendra Modi on why he decided to meet Sharif and go for a joint statement.
The fundamental issue is what was the justification of the Prime Minister meeting and having a joint statement issued, which has no relevance, which has embarrassed India and in fact undermined India's own position.
जो कुछ वहाँ फैसला होता है वो आर्मी के दबाव में होता है और शायद यही कारण है कि वहाँ जो बातचीत हुई रशिया में प्रधानमंत्री नवाज शरीफ और नरेंद्र मोदी जी के बीच में, अब शायद उसको पाकिस्तान की जो सेना है वो उसको स्वीकार नहीं कर रही है.
The opposition's barb comes at a time when there has been a surge in ceasefire violations by Pakistan. However, according to sources, the government has downplayed Sartaj Aziz's remarks as not harmful enough to affect the road for engagement agreed to by the two leaders. It also assured that any attempt to violate ceasefire will be dealt with force.
हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक स्टेट्समैनशिप का परिचय दिया कि हाथ फैलाना नहीं करेंगे. यदि किसी प्रकार का वायलेशन होता है अथवा सीमा के ऊपर उनके द्वारा कोई हमला होता है, आक्रमण होता है, तो उसका मुंहतोड़ जवाब भी भारत देता है.
According to sources, it was Prime Minister Modi's idea to have a joint media interaction by foreign secretaries of both countries after the talks, following which the two sides drafted the statement. The centre is now looking forward to the meetings between the NSAs and DGMOs to take things forward. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, a day after getting the third bailout deal from the Eurozone, Greece is now racing against time to meet its first deadline and prove its intent to the creditors. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras is seeking the passage of 4 reform measures in the parliament, but he's facing tough resistance from the opposition and some of his own party members as well.
Despite a bailout deal, Greece's troubles are far from over. After securing a third bailout from creditors on their terms, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras now faces a tough battle in Parliament. he has to persuade MPs within his government to get the backing to the deal. The Eurozone leaders agreed on a conditional bailout in return for major reforms and passing of key legislations. 4 pieces of legislation must be passed by the end of Wednesday, including pension and VAT reforms.
Ξεκαθαρίζω ότι η συμφωνία αυτή είναι έξω από τη συμφωνία και πέρα από τη συμφωνία που κάναμε η πολιτική αρχή από τον Πρόεδρο της Δημοκρατίας και την οποία ενέκρινε η Βουλή των Ελλήνων.
Δηλαδή δεν υπάρχουν ζητήματα δεδηλωμένης τυπικά, ουσία όμως θα το δούμε τότε. Δηλαδή δεν υπάρχει περίπτωση να μην στηριχτεί ο Πρωθυπουργός στο να συνεχιστεί αυτή η πορεία για μια συμφωνία.
Tsipras is having a tough time garnering support within his party too. But with little time left, there are reports that the PM could be considering a cabinet reshuffle. Several leading anti-bailout figures could be replaced. Meanwhile, EU finance ministers in Brussels struggle to find ways to fund Greece to keep it from a short-term cash crisis. Greece needs 3.5 billion euros by Monday to redeem its maturing credit from the European Central Bank. Athens also has to settle an overdue payment to the IMF of more than 2 billion euros. Overall, Greece needs 7 billion euros in July and another 5 billion by mid-August.
Well, we're looking at all the instruments and funds that we could use, and all of them seem to have disadvantages or impossibilities or legal objections, so we're still working on it.
So some kind of a solution will have to be found. Perhaps some member states want to give bilateral loans. That could be always possible, so you never know.
If the deal fails to find approval in the Greek parliament, Greece's banks face collapse, and the country could then be forced to leave the euro. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to sports now, and in cricket, India has set a target of 277 runs for Zimbabwe in the third and final ODI at Harare today. Kedar Jadhav scored his maiden one-day 100 and set up a fifth wicket partnership of 144 with debutant Manish Pandey. The two helped India to 276 for 5 after another top-order stumble that left them in trouble at 82 for 4. Later, Jadhav and Stuart Binney helped India mop up 106 of the last 10 overs. India already has an unassailable lead of 2-0 in the 3-match series.
Again, a leading edge trying to play on the onside.
Well, that's all from us for today. But before we go, we leave you with these visuals of Pluto as NASA prepares a flyby of the distant planet. Now, according to NASA's New Horizons spacecraft, the dwarf planet is actually larger than thought, measuring roughly 2/3 the size of the Moon. Have a look at this.